a good follow-up. Jonathan Judge, Glenn Healy talked about the new baseball. So call that a spoiler or maybe a foreshadowing trailer or whatever. So yeah, anyway, home runs went up last year. Blister injuries have gone up. And I'm going to talk about basically what may be behind this. So here's the question. Why needs to be in it? Well, a whole bunch of us were looking at what might be causing the home run surge. And my thought was that maybe it was actually the baseball itself, something about the baseball construction. Now, there's good precedent for this historically. For instance, the transition from the dead ball to the live ball era, Ben Lindbergh wrote about this, was because the source of the wool used to make yarn changed, hence the way the ball traveled changed. Part of this motivation was actually Alan's talk last year, where he had this beautiful graph showing a change in the way the ball moved that essentially happened over 2015. So 2014, the ball moved one way, then 2015, there was a change. 2016, 17 was, again, you're getting a sort of different plane. So what do? I take a bunch of balls from 2014, I took another bunch of balls from 2016, 17, and I decided to look at the construction, and so I tore them apart. This is, I have a friend refer to this as a disinvolvement, which I thought was kind of cute. Not my pun, somebody else's pun. I have plenty of my own. And I very systematically made a point of trying not to destroy anything. The only thing is really that cotton cover because it's so full of glue. I should also point out, there's my baseball. I did bring a show and tell, so I have baseballs and I have torn apart baseballs with me. So if you actually want to see what this looks like in real life, I've got some with me. Come, talk to me after the talk. So I ended up finding or measuring 16 independent variables, and these are things that some of them are obvious. It's like the size of the ball, mass of the ball, but I also looked at like the length and thickness of the laces, the leather cover. Looked at the various yarn as far as length, mass, whatever. And as you can see, for the most part, everything overlaps. The red is the 2014 sample, the blue is the 2016-17 sample, and the error bars are one standard deviation. So yeah, everything pretty much looks like it hasn't changed, and if anything, there's actually a fair bit of scatter. Except for the thickness of the laces. And this is, as you can see, there's actually a gap. I should say that the units of wraps per centimeter are actually inverse length. So essentially, thicker laces are going to have fewer wraps per centimeter. This is what I mean. Hopefully the slide is showing up well despite the lights. But you literally take the laces and you wrap it around the measuring stick, and then you count the number of wraps. So if you wanted to, I could probably go through and do it right now, but just trust me, there are more wraps here than here. And what I found was that on average, the laces for the post-2015 balls were 9% thicker than 2014. Statistically significant results. So what does that mean for the game? It's just laces. It shouldn't be a big deal, right? Actually, it turns out it might be. So one of the things, like I said to begin with, is that starting in 2016, the rate of pitcher blisters went up. We had people losing time a lot because of pitcher blister injuries. And you had pitchers who, Rich Hill, great example, who were very vocal about the fact that the ball felt different. And yeah, in fact, like I said, I have comparison baseballs. In fact, they're literally these exact two baseballs. And you can visually pretty much see that there is a difference, and you can feel the difference. Come find me, you'll feel the difference. Now, I don't know if it's that the laces are standing up more. I don't know if it's that kind of the leather lace striping is different, and therefore you're getting sort of more texture, but it feels rougher. And so a guy who's throwing, I was going to say, I do have the correct hand there. He's throwing, say, a four-seam fastball, and he's got his finger up against the seams. Yeah, yeah, he's, probably more likely to get a blister with the thicker laces. The other thing, and this actually gets back to my original question, which was, could the baseball construction be related to the home run surge? By the way, what you are seeing here, the article is not yet out, so this is the debut. This is a new graph in the last couple of weeks. When the home run committee had their stuff come out, they found that there was one change in the baseball that was related to the change in drag coefficient. I found one change in baseball. I should also point out that they didn't find what the physical change was. Having found one change in the baseball, which was the change in lace thickness, I had to wonder, is there a relationship between the lace thickness and the lower drag coefficient, and was there a way to try to prove that? Now, the hypothesis that I had was basically that thicker laces have higher tensile strength, and so maybe there's a way that that higher tensile strength is leading to greater spherical symmetry. Because the more spherical ball can have a lower drag coefficient, therefore it's going to travel further. And as I recall from the home run report, you don't need a ton of change in drag coefficient, you just need enough. So the way that I looked for spherical symmetry was, insert exhibit A, baseball. The one weak point on the ball really is the seams. It's where the crack is. And so if you're going to have a deviation from spherical symmetry, it's not an unreasonable hypothesis that your deviation is going to be on/near the seams. And so I got a bunch of balls that were still whole, as opposed to the ones that had taken apart, and just took a bunch of, let me see if I can do this, but took calipers and did a measurement of sort of 3 orthogonal points, like here, here, and then here, and those are just my x, y, z coordinates. And then similarly, I took calipers and I did diameters that were adjacent to the seams, like a few millimeters off, at 2 points, and then I averaged them. And then I took the difference between the seam adjacent diameters and the orthogonal diameters to see, was I actually seeing a difference in diameter close to the seams. What I found was that for my post-2015 balls, and this sample was actually from earlier this spring, yeah, there is a little bit of increased diameter at the seam adjacent points. So blue is basically, it's bigger at near the seams, I should say, than at the orthogonal points. So say 2/3 of them were bigger, 1/3 of them weren't, 1/3 of them were actually smaller. Then though, when I went to my pre-2015 sample, and this is one is more baseballs, it's also a larger range of time, it's 2010 to 2014, every single one of these baseballs has a larger seam adjacent diameter. This is done as percentage, by the way, because baseballs tend to vary so much in terms of diameter, but the average percentage is like 0.66%, it works out to about 0.5 millimeter. The ball is only about 71 or 2 millimeters across, so that's actually non-trivial. It's not statistically significant, but it is non-trivial. Now, okay, I'm going to do that one. What I think is going on is that the change or the cause of this, I should say, may actually be something within the manufacturing process itself. The key here is that the laces are made of cotton. And wet cotton, if you stretch it and you let it air dry, which is basically what happens, the laces are tight, and then they're air drying balls. This is just how they're made. There's a great report in the home run report, in fact, that sort of describes the process pretty well. I encourage you all to read all 80 pages of it. It's totally worth the effort. But the laces are basically being dried, stretched, and they don't snap back. They stay stretched. So lower tensile strength laces, meaning the thinner ones, meaning pre-2015, are presumably going to stretch more. Hence, you would get a bulging at the seams that would show up more than the post-2015 laces. So bulging at the seams, and I guess I'm kind of restating this, if you have thicker laces, you get less bulging at the seams. Less bulging at the seams means more spherical symmetry. More spherical symmetry means a lower drag coefficient. If it's enough of a lower drag coefficient, that could literally be
It could be something as simple as these laces and the way the balls are manufactured. Now, like I said, this isn't statistically significant. There's way too much variation in the baseballs themselves. But there's obvious follow-ups, like a larger sample, maybe you will get stuff that's statistically significant. Also, more precise measurement techniques. I have a pair of calipers, and I got this. It would be so great if somebody took much more specific measurement techniques over a much wider sample. You could also do things like test laces where you're varying thickness. You could make balls with wet laces or dry laces, or throw them in the dryer so they shrink back to normal, like your t-shirt. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be done here. The other thing, though, I promise it's my last sentence, is I still want to know why this happened. Why in the world did Rollins change laces to begin with? I would love somebody else to do that, but I think it's a valid question, and this has had such a material impact on the game that, it's definitely something that needs to be looked into. So thank you guys. Thank you.